Hello, everyone. You've reached my podcast. This is podcast number 2. I am actually calling this series Retooling Skills versus Degree Attainment. And so throughout this series, what I'm planning to do is talk about some of the certifications and some of the experiences that not only college students should be doing, but adults should be doing along the way. Some of the concerns that I have about some of the things that I see online, being in the field of education as somebody that trains people to go out and get a job. One of the things that concerns me is this rhetoric that's coming out of nowhere about whether you should go to school or get a skilled trade. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about why we need to end that debate. So, first of all, when I was in my master's program in Social and Philosophical Foundations of Education, we had to take a course on educational attainment. And we had to look at what were the labor market outcomes for getting any type of post-secondary education. And that meant, what did you do after high school that ended up helping you get a job? Did you go to trade school, learn a skilled trade? Did you go to Goodwill and get a license? Did you go to a college, a 2-year, and work on a 2-year degree? Did you work on a 4-year degree? Did you go into the military where you had to retrain and retool there? What did you do that helped you get a job later? So that made me think about the skills versus degree attainment issue. So one of the things that I tell people is, don't ever just send somebody to some type of school or certification without some type of end in mind. That being said, what I also recommend is that people pick up several certifications, particularly young people. I mean, if you're a young person, there's really no reason why you shouldn't have several certifications by the time you finish high school, because you could work on one every summer. And that could be your internship that you do for yourself, so that you can have resume builders coming out of high school. Now, a lot of young people, they are very tech savvy, but you all don't have the credentials. And if you look at what TikTok has done recently, they're making it harder for you to get online if you don't have the credentials. So right now, we're not in a tech race. Everybody can use tech. Teachers can use tech. There are 7-year-olds who can do tech. So that doesn't make you special. We have people out here who are full stack engineers who've studied for 7 years. They can use this technology like they're brushing their teeth. That doesn't mean anything. What means something is if you are in command of the content that goes into the technology you're using. And that means, here's the technical side of the technology, but content becomes king. Content becomes queen. So you have to think about how you're going to leverage this technology to share the content you have online, or to use the tech. You're going to leverage the tech in whatever position you're in. It doesn't matter whether you're a professor, whether you're a teacher, whether you're a doctor, whether you're a lawyer. How are you using this tech? And so that's the reason we have to talk about skills versus degree attainment. The other thing is, I have talked to many different parents about my concern about them just sending their children off to college. Now, I'm a 4-time degree holder, okay? But I knew what I wanted to do when I went into college. I ended up changing my mind, as most college students do. But I had some goals in mind, and I knew I was going to finish school. I was going to push myself, cry myself through it, but I was going to finish. But along the way, I understood, because I had good mentoring, that it's not just going to school. The children who are successful at getting a degree and getting a job when they get out of school, number one, they have 3 certifications before they even start college. Number 2, they get a certification every year that they're in college. Number 3, they do internships. Number 4, they do externships. Number 5, if they're fortunate or if they're savvy, they get a chance to study abroad at least once or twice. They also know that they need to volunteer and do some type of service learning because it looks good on their resume. The ones who know that they're going to grad school, they get into some type of research program over the summer. I did too, because I knew I was going to grad school. The children who want to get a job after graduation, they are lined up in the career center every time it's a workshop. They're learning etiquette for the business sphere. They're getting skills on how to do basic office skills. They're getting different workshops on how to build a resume. They're getting tips on what to do before they go to the job fair. So they're not showing up to the job fair in jeans and a t-shirt thinking they're going to get a job. So one of the things I tell parents is make sure that when your child shows up, to college and everything, that they're ready, that they're teachable. But also, I would never send my child to a school that underfunds the career office and underfunds any kind of support services like tutoring or anything like that, because those are the supports that you need to be successful. Nobody comes in ready to go. Nobody. I've worked at this level for 20 years. Everybody needs support in some capacity. So make sure that you actually have a plan. So for those of you who are following this series, I want you to get a journal. Go get one of those very beautiful old-fashioned journals. I'll leave a link in the chat of a couple of businesses that sell them so you can get a nice journal that looks professional, so you're not pulling out little raggedy pieces of paper and things like that when you're on your journey and thinking about what you want to do. You want to look professional as well, because that does matter. One of the things that you want to journal about is, what is your end goal? So if you're somebody who's retooling because you lost your job, or somebody who's just starting out, what is your end goal? Have you thought about that? Have you thought about what you really want to do with your life? Because we all know it's going to ebb and flow, it's going to change, but you do need to have an initial plan, because that gives you some direction that you want to go into. So the other thing is, how does a career add to that goal? So the first thing is, where do you want to be? How does the career that you're going in get you there? And I'm not talking about hanging off the side of a yacht. I mean, if that's your goal, right? But I'm talking about more practical concerns about, do you want to live in a home? Do you want to drive a car? Do you want to be able to afford groceries? Do you want to be able to have a retirement account? Do you want to be able to go on vacation twice a year? I'm talking about more practical concerns and how your career attainment will get you there. The other thing is, you need to consider how much schooling you need. The debates about whether somebody should go to school and, people getting all these useless degrees, no degree is useless. There's not a single degree that's useless. Some of the most useful degrees are actually in the humanities, because that's where you learn critical thinking. You learn the digital humanities is more useful than just as useful as a business degree right now with social media. So we have to look at the question for you individually. It's not a global question, because you're not globally going to school. You are retooling yourself. You are making the decision about what you want to do for your career, for your family, and for your future. So that being said, you need to ask yourself, and it's not an existential question, it is a very direct question: how much schooling do you need in order to do the career that you plan to do? For some people, it might just mean a 2-year degree. For other people, it might just mean a series of certificates until they figure out what they want to do, right? Because they might be a little lost. For other people, it might mean, I'll get an undergrad degree, but I'm going to double major. For other people, it might mean you need to get at least one master's degree. The other thing is, and I want you all to consider this because no one is talking about this and I have no idea why. Which certificates do you need? Now, I am a licensed and certification holder. My own story is that, even when I went into the academy, I kept my teaching license current. Okay. I have a research certificate, so I can do the research I need to do for IRB. I'm constantly working on other certifications. And once I do, I add them to my CV. I add them to my LinkedIn because I want people to see that I am always staying current in my field so that people know that I know what I'm talking about. So if you are doubtful about whether certificates are important, I want to point you to this, and I'll put a link in the chat regarding this. There is a feature article on the University of Chicago page. The title of it is called The Rise of Professional Certificates, Catalyzing Career Trajectories in the Knowledge Economy, because that's what we're in right now. So if somebody is telling you not to go to school, they don't know what they're talking about. I would be very careful of dealing with somebody like that. Certificates, once relegated to the periphery of career advancement, have emerged as linchpins in the modern professional's toolkit. Consider this. Due to shifting market dynamics and rapid technological innovation, 60% of today's workforce is projected to need training before 2027. On top of that, employers estimate that 44% of workers' skills will be disrupted in the next 5 years. In this context, certificates have outgrown their traditional role as supplementary credentials to become essential instruments for both individual career progression and organizational resilience. So again, I'm going to leave this article in the description section so that you can follow up and read it. But it is critical. And I want you all to consider it as you're thinking about which skills you need, what degree attainment you need in the new knowledge economy. The knowledge economy is becoming the influencer economy. So the people who get in on the ground floor and they begin to study and they begin to share information and they begin to talk about knowledge production, innovation, the future, those are the ones who will find themselves employed going into the future. So again, if you haven't had the chance, I want you to get a journal. If no one has told you, journaling is a very liberating experience. As a literacy professional, I'm always recommending that people journal. I keep several journals on me when I'm writing about different topics and different things that I'm working on. I do consider myself to be a community organizer, but I'm also a thought leader. And so in that respect, I need to make sure that I'm always generating new ideas and thinking about how things work. So again, what is your end goal? How does a career add to that goal? How much schooling do I need? Which certificates do I need? I want to thank you all for listening. I know you didn't have to stay and listen, but I do appreciate that you did. My name is Dr. Tiffany A. Flowers. Thank you for coming to my series on retooling, skills versus degree attainment. And I hope that you enjoy my public scholarship. Please subscribe to my YouTube. And I look forward to connecting with you online. Take care.